Boggle, do you like superheroes?
Fairly. I have to admit, I'm no comic book nerd, but I do find them interesting.
Do you have a favorite superhero?
Anyone on the Discord who's spoken to me whenever superheroes have been the topic of conversation will know that I am quite fond of Supergirl and Superman. I know those are very cliche choices, but I'd have to go with them.
Me personally, I'm a huge Batman fan, I would say. Looking over at my Batman comic collection, and my first thought is, fuck, it's way too small.
I guess you and I have to be enemies, though. Batman v Superman. No, I'm just kidding.
I just gave you, like, a really dirty look right now.
A good thing I can't see you.
But you know who else seems to like superheroes?
Who?
DangerousAsmr.
Oh, you're right. She does have quite a few, doesn't she?
And guess what? That is what today's episode is going to be about. We are going to talk about the superhero verse of the DangerousAsmr verse. I don't even know if it is a superhero verse, but fuck it, we're talking about all the superhero episodes of DangerousAsmr. Today on the Cult of DangerousAsmr podcast. Welcome to episode 2 of the DangerousAsmr podcast. I am Steven, or Moviebuff 3000. Those are all the names I have. My mother gave me both of those names. That's all people can call me.
They're both on the birth certificate. I haven't even seen a picture of his birth certificate, but I already know it says Steven or Moviebuff 3000.
Yeah. I don't even have a last or middle name. It's just Steven or Moviebuff 3000. I guess that's my last name.
Because there's so many characters in that alone that there was no room to put in a middle or last name.
And speaking of people who only have ridiculous names, here's my co-host Boggle.
Hi. Yeah, I know most superheroes also give themselves like cool names if they need to hide their civilian identity. I have no epic story behind mine. It's not even that. Literally, I just needed a name that was as far away from my real legal name as possible. I was like, how about if we just make up a word? And that was that. I've been using it ever since. My superhero name, quote unquote, is not as cool as something like Superman or Batman.
You were named after a board game, apparently.
Or I was named after an owl. If you've seen, guys, there's this owl creature that is Boggle the owl, and apparently he acts as like this. He gives a lot of encouraging messages to people, and I'm like, that kind of fits. I feel that. So.
Are you trying to scare me by bringing up owls?
Oh, right, shoot, I forgot you don't like owls. So maybe you'd be Owlman. Like, Batman used to fear bats, but then he became a bat, so I guess one day you'll be Owlman.
Batman actually already has an Owlman.
Well, then you can do that.
There's two, well, there's more than two, but there's like two Owlmans, but if we start talking about Batman stuff, that's gonna be the whole podcast.
Alright, moving on.
But yeah, like we said in the intro, we are going to be talking about the few DangerousAsmr superhero-based episodes. There's actually more than I thought. I knew about the Tied Up by a Supervillain. That was like one of the earlier ones I watched. But yeah, and currently we also have seemingly an ongoing superhero series called Blessing or a Curse, written by AJ Strange, and he is the reason why I decided, like, hey, let's do this, because theme episodes are fun, and superheroes are fun, and so we are expecting to have fun with this episode. All right. But before we begin the podcast proper, let's go ahead and we are going to pimp out all of Dangerous's stuff everywhere you can find her. The YouTube channel, obviously. By the way, in case you're too lazy to find them yourself or find them on Dangerous's own YouTube videos, I will link these in the comments. Dangerous does have a Twitter. She doesn't use it often, and usually it's just to advertise her videos. But the few times she does use it, she usually has like a very funny like joke, or she's making fun of like something, or she's sharing the fact that she's getting advertisements for Depends, apparently. And of course, there's everyone's favorite Discord, where you can come and hang out with various other Dangerous fans, and we can talk about Dangerous, or we can talk about whatever you want, just as long as it's safe for work.
Well, there are not safe for work channels in the Discord if you're 18 plus, so.
But if you're not 18 plus, then you stay out of them, because we'll get yelled at. And of course, if you love Dangerous so much, why don't you throw a bunch of money at her? She's got a Patreon, which Patreon is awesome because not only do you get videos a day early, you get Drunken Dangerous, which is a series where she's drunk and sometimes she'll tell you stories and sometimes she'll just bullshit around.
Either way, it's always a good time.
And in addition to that, if you are over the age of 18, there are various not safe for work stuff. It can range from episodes that are a little bit longer that have some not safe for work stuff in them, like today's episode that came out, or it's an entirely original episode just dedicated to basically being porn. And then, of course, there's the Dangerous ASMR shop on Redbubble. She actually updated it with a couple more designs and stuff, like the Currently Being Kidnapped, which that's a shirt I want to get. Like, it sucks that it doesn't have the word Dangerous ASMR on it, but, like, that's a good shirt that I'll wear at home and never in public.
Oh, I'll wear mine in public, bro. I got no shame. Gonna advertise her stuff to everyone, like random strangers on the street. Hey, have you heard of this YouTuber? No, hey, where are you going? I'm not finished giving my spiel yet. I have their YouTube brought up on my phone. Come here.
Of course, the wonderful Little Dung Heap is on Fire t-shirts. That one takes a little bit more explaining to do, but...
That's a Drunken Dangerous reference. That's why you guys need to go to her Patreon so you can understand some of these references.
That's another one that, like... that one I'd probably wear in public more than the Curly and Kidnapped one, because everyone feels that way about this planet at this moment.
Yep.
And, of course, if for some reason you don't like to wear shirts, I don't know if Dangerous set this up herself, or this is just how Redbubble works, because I don't know how the internet works. But you can get these designs printed on a variety of things, such as coffee mugs, stickers, mouse pads, and of course, I can't say coronavirus, you get in trouble. And of course, masks to protect you from the dangers of this world, because there's currently a plague going on, and the only way you can protect yourself is to wear a mask that says King Simp on it.
Yeah, the plague that's going on, we'll see that and be repelled. It cannot legally enter your body without consent. You'll be like, no, we're not going on a simp.
Because not even...
It has higher standards than that.
Yeah. Not even a dangerous flu wants to deal with simps. We're gonna kind of break the order a little bit. We're actually gonna review the new Dangerous audio first, and then we'll go into talking about like the other superhero based audios. Because even when we do theme episodes, like I really want us to like still talk about like what came out, because I mean other audios deserve love too. Like if we do a vampire episode, that's just us talking about vampires for 80 hours. I would like to mention that other stuff came out. So, what do you think about Guide to a Nightmare World?
I thought it was kind of interesting because it starts off with this, you as the listener and as your own person outside the audio, you have no idea what's going on. You just kind of wake up there and it's very confusing. And I remember thinking even, I was like, what are we supposed to be? Because we're obviously not entirely human. And then this creature that finds us, which is, of course, Dangerous' character, I'm like, and what is she supposed to be exactly? So it was very kind of trippy, I suppose you could say, before it segues into this more interesting, like, you can sense that there's a plot being set up. Because, you know, it's not just her being like, oh, hey, what's up? She actually has a goal in mind for you. And it's like, oh, man, I feel like we might be seeing another series unless the author was content to keep this as a one-off. Because it might be, because again, like, by the time this podcast is up, the episode will have already released on YouTube, so I'm going to spoil it if the title didn't already. But yeah, you ultimately find out this falls under the "it was all a dream" thing. Because at the very end, in the last 10 seconds, the audio fades out, but it's not over. Then you hear her voice in a much different, softer tone, and it's like, oh, all along you were asleep. And that was just some weird dream you had about your girlfriend and yourself. But in reality, you guys are, at least it's heavily implied, just you're normal people. So it did seem like a little bit of an arbitrary twist, like why MG, the author, chose to make it it was all a dream type thing. But I still kind of liked it, to be honest. It seemed interesting, because I think, at least on Patreon, one of the comments, people were saying they thought, like, there's got to be more to it than this. Maybe we're already overanalyzing where we don't need to be, but even I had that feeling where I was like, does this mean anything? Because I think one comment did essentially say, maybe there's something going on in this character's day life that is, like, manifesting in these weird dreams. I'm like, that's an interesting theory, but this is the only part that'll be out now, so I'm going to try to, like, keep the theories to a minimum.
Yeah, my theory with the ending is, I'm being legitimate, this is not just me trying to be funny, but I like to think that the listener in this is just a Dangerous ASMR fan, and he's just listened to too many goddamn audios. You know, he's just imagining, like, dying and going to this nightmare world where a dangerous ASMR character is, not only trying to help him navigate it, but try to have her way with him, too. And, by the way, Patreon, once again, there's a not safe for work, part of this. So, if you want to, which is rated by Dangerous herself, because Dangerous is the type of person who's like, yeah, can I add sex stuff to this? I have not listened to that yet, but yeah, Boggle has.
I'm a naughty little girl. I can't deny it. It was just mostly for curiosity's sake, though, because I was like, yeah, but how not safe for work are we talking? So.
Not usually while you listen to them, you're like, wait a minute, how far does this go?
Yeah, literally, it's really more curiosity than anything. I'm like, I want to see how far she goes. So, but yeah, so that's the kind of, since it is admittedly just porn by that point, while there's like lines of dialogue being spoken, it doesn't, you still have the entire story, even if you only listen to the safe for work version. You don't need to hear the second half of it. That's more like an add-on, so to speak. I do love, Stephen, your theory, though, of like that meta sense that it's a parody. We've all listened to her too much. Now it's in our dreams. I actually never even thought of that, but I freaking love it because I love meta humor. So that kind of theory where it's like, at this point, a jab, possibly, to the audience. I'm like, yes, I am here for that. I accept that as canon now.
And then what's funny is it makes it even sadder because he already has a girlfriend. So what is he?
Unless that's a dream too, and he's dreaming that Dangerous is his real girlfriend. So it's a dream within a dream within a dream type scenario. He'll just wake up from that and be like, "Oh, I'm a lonely sap," like I do every morning. Kidding, guys. I'm a happy person. I promise.
And so my thoughts into it were like, I was interested in it just because like a concept of like, oh, what do they mean by nightmare world? Is this just like some like weird alternate reality? And then, just from kind of the language and Dangerous's character, she seemed to be like a kind of like an angel of sorts, who's like helping the listener like kind of get prepared. So like I was like, okay, is this like an afterlife or something, or is this like literally like taking the word nightmare into a little bit more like analyzing the word nightmare a little bit more? I was like, okay, is this just like a dream world that he has to like navigate from? Although after a while, funnily enough, I started treating this like a video game tutorial. Like after she was done doing the ritual on you, she was going to be like, all right, if you want to protect yourself, be sure to press the action button to attack the enemies. And it becomes like a full-on video game tutorial. Then, as you were saying, he does like wake up at the end, so it's kind of like, oh, like was this a dream, or like even going like more in the nightmare, like I was saying, like was he actually in the nightmare world? Then he woke up and now he's like back safe in reality. It doesn't help that I was like getting Bloodborne vibes from it because Bloodborne's all about like like being like in a dream and stuff like that. Spoilers if you haven't played Bloodborne, but don't worry, I did not ruin anything for Bloodborne. I don't even think you can understand what's happening in Bloodborne half the time. But yeah, I enjoyed it. Like I do. As we kind of stated a little bit last week, I do prefer like a lot just having like more one shots because that way it's just like a nice little like, oh hey, that was a good audio, and then it kind of, if it's good like this one was, it'll like stay with you and you'll just like kind of think about it. But if this does become a series, I am curious to see like what is happening, like whether like that was just a dream or he was whisked away to some kind of like dream world that has he's whisked away to like some like specific type of like real like dream world or something. So I do kind of want to know what the titular nightmare world is like. But yeah, this was a fun audio. Dangerous's character was cool. It was a combination of like creepy and like sweetness, I guess.
Sweet and scary, her usual.
Did you have anything else to add, Boggle?
Aside from the fact that we're probably overanalyzing this, not really. Like, plot twist, the author himself, like, no, guys, it was literally only just a dream. You're looking way too much into it.
It's like, he's like, literally, yeah, this was just a one-shot dream. Yeah, it was.
This was not going to be a setup to an entire alternate reality universe, Silent Hill style, where every night it changes. Anyways.
Yeah, but yeah, I did enjoy this though. I like darker stuff like this. It was cool to hear. All right, so now we are on the superhero portion of the show. And not only are we reviewing the currently 4 superhero-based audios, but also we did ask the author of A Blessing or Curse, AJ Strange, a couple of questions regarding the series, and just also ask him what his favorite superheroes are. All right, but let's get on to the first audio, the Super Evil / Odd Couple, written by Ike Moore. Ike Moore's audios are a little bit more like Patreon based. Like, I'm not sure like if any of them are on the regular YouTube
channel?
No,
I don't think so. I think you have to be on Patreon and listen to his audios, and they are typically shorter. Yeah. Like, the average audio is 10 to 20 minutes. His are usually always under 10. But absolutely, you guys, like, you should, even if only for a little bit, join Patreon just to listen to the few audios he has out, because even though there aren't many, he's just so funny. He's such a great comedic writer. Like, he's very satirical and throws in a lot of references to, like, for example, one of his series is called Nails and Gale, which is essentially, Gale is supposed to be that normal everyman character, and she acquires the new roommate, Nails, who's an ex-criminal, essentially. She's just gotten out of prison, and it's just as wacky as it sounds. And the most recent episode has the characters, like, referencing and making jokes about our current plague, and it's not, like, it's not insensitive, of course, but it's the kind of humor that's just so good because it's so relevant and referencey, and that's what also you see in the Super Evil Odd Couple. Because this is one of his older, because I think Nails and Gale is newer, that series, because this Super Evil Odd Couple is a one-shot and it's a bit older, but it still has the same flavor of humor, where the plot is essentially, you're a hero, just some generic hero saving the city, and Dangerous is supposed to be, I suppose, your girlfriend, but as she reveals, pause right here if you guys haven't listened to it, because I'm about to spoil it. After she greets you after you return home from saving the city, and she goes through you like, oh, happy to see you, honey, yada yada, love you. And when she's like, okay, I'm gonna go to make dinner now, and once she's alone, she does that villain monologue thing where villains talk to themselves like, I can't wait until I unleash this newest plan. I will bring the hero to their knees. And that's when you realize she's actually this hero's villain, and that's how she's trying to get to him, is by acting the part of this silly little girlfriend, when in reality she's some dangerous supervillain type whose name is even Dangerous Diana. And it's just, yeah, that's Ike Moore's kind of humor, because it sounds semi-serious the way I'm telling it, but if you listen to it, like, every line will make you laugh. Ike Moore's a great comedian with his writing. It's so good. It's only like 6 minutes long, but it's a good 6 minutes of that little plot twist of her being like, one day it's just really good.
Yeah, it's kind of, I've heard audios, I've heard like other like ASMR artists like do audios of like the superhero with the supervillain type of things, but this one's like definitely like a lot more funnier. If you want like a good like serious one, Fearless Lynn does like a superhero and like your supervillain lover. Dollface also does like a good one, but this one's definitely like a lot more comedic based. It's basically Dangerous Diana just making fun of like her situation and complaining that she's like stuck with like a pretty boring superhero, and like just how she can't wait to unleash her plan. And so this is kind of like you get like 2 dangerous characters out of this, like the very sweet girlfriend and the sinister Dangerous Diana. So this one's a funny one. It's pure comedy, but like as we said, like Ike Moore's like probably like the best like comedic writer of like the Dangerous list of writers. And then after that, we have one that hopefully a lot of people will listen to. This one is pretty, well, not pretty old. It's like a year old. It's funny when we say pretty old, and Dangerous has only been around for like 2 years. I'm like, yeah, Pirate Queen.
I know, but so much has happened that it feels like way longer, because I'm in that same boat where I'm like, do you remember those old audios? Oh, wait, they were only from a year ago.
Tied Up by a Supervillain, which is written by Dangerous herself. Apparently, this was written and recorded in like a span of a few hours too. Like she just must have had the idea, went to her computer, wrote it out, and then just like, okay, fuck it, I'm gonna record it now, and then just post it like immediately after. So this one is basically you, the listener, are a superhero that has finally been defeated by a supervillain, and now she's tied you up and she has you like in the grasp, and she's almost playing like a Lex Luthor type, or Lexi Luthor as she refers to herself in like the description. And for those that want some comic book knowledge, there actually has been some female Lex Luthors before. It's rare, but there are a couple, and here they are. There is Dr. Alexandra Luthor from the Earth 1 comics, although technically she's married to Lex Luthor in that comic. It's really weird. There is Alexis Luthor from Earth 16, which is just Lex Luthor's daughter, who is also bald. Then there's Lena Luthor, who is most famous for being shipped with Supergirl in the Supergirl show. She's Lex's sister. And of course, everyone's favorite, unconfirmed Earth 11 female Lex Luthor. I kind of like this. I like this audio for like the foyer stuff. If you don't know foyer, that means you don't go on TV tropes, and shame on you for never going on TV tropes.
Actually, that makes you a better person than me, because I have literally lost many nights of sleep TV troping. You start on one page, and suddenly you're a million pages deep, and it's 6 a.m., and you're not even halfway done.
It's like, you're like, let me like read a recap of Arrow, and you're just like, what does this trope mean? And then like 8 hours later, you're like, what the fuck? Why am I reading about Teletubbies?
Literally, though.
But yeah, it has. I know it's a cliche, but I always like it. I always like it when like you can tell like the supervillain clearly loves the superhero. Maybe not like in a romantic sense, but in like I enjoy that we do battles, and you can just tell like just how like not only smug but happy she is that she has won. Um, and she refers to herself as the chemist. I don't know if that's like officially her name, but I'll use that as my headcanon. Yeah, this is a fun audio, and I kind of it's funny out of all the times we're like, yeah, we wish there was more one shots. This one I kind of wish would get revisited again, mainly because I want to see if the listener was able to break free from her grasp, or he is now a supervillain, and now there's a Superman level supervillain in this world's universe. But what do you think about it, Boggle?
You said it very well. It was because I won't lie, when I first saw the title tied up by a supervillain, I was expecting it to be on the kinkier side. But to listen to it, and actually it is quite serious. It plays like an actual villain has the hero captured scene that you'd see in a movie, where it is, even if you know the hero will eventually escape somehow, that scene is always so tense and serious, with the hero completely at the villain's mercy, and the villain being very cold and ruthless, even as they brag and talk about what they're going to do next, and they give that arbitrary villain monologue. It was played with such a darkness to it that I was really getting, because it was like Steven said, I almost wanted more because it was being played so intensely, and it ended on a cliffhanger. I was like, oh no. So, because I know that's part of the point, obviously, but it was very enrapturing, I suppose, where it was just so dark and serious and intense, and I'm like, oh man, this is not the funny, lewd thing I thought it was going to be. This is like something you would probably see out of a movie, so it was very good.
Yeah, I actually like how like even though it's like kind of there, I like how like the lewd and like flirty stuff took a back seat. So it let Dangerous kind of like throw out some more of her acting chops of playing like a legitimately like intimidating like type of character. So I think that's why this one like always stood out for me, because even though we come for the lewd, like Dangerous is a really good performer, and so she can. There's so many times like the Jekyll and Hyde thing, like you'll hear me bring that up every single week. You come
fanboy over here.
Yeah,
but same, to be honest.
You come for like the lewd like transformations and stuff like that, but you end up like ending the episode of like, wow, that was really well written, and that was a really good story. I feel like
actually, quick fun fact, you guys. The writer of Jekyll and Hyde, is another superhero fan. I know he's not in this episode either. I'm sorry, it's just the two of us again. But yeah, that shows this fandom does love its superheroes.
Yeah. I'm sure you can tell this. I'm sure some of you can tell this, but he is a big She-Hulk fan, and so there's a lot of She-Hulk influence in his Jekyll and Hyde audios. Even before like I started talking to him and really get to know him, though, I would always like be like, "Wow, this is like She-Hulk." I even like the joke that that Debbie turns into Abomination, which is a Hulk villain.
Oh, nice, nice. Yeah, a lot of superheroes in this fandom, because that I'm pretty sure Todd even once told me kind of part of the reason he chose Jekyll and Hyde is because that story is definitely in the public domain by now, but he was worried that using She-Hulk would be towing the line of copyright. So essentially, it is a She-Hulk story, even if the names are Jekyll and Hyde. So that could almost count as like an unofficial superhero audio, because also he also told me it's sort of setting up that way. And I think anybody, if you guys listen to that series, which you totally should, it's long, but it's worth it. You get that vibe to it. That it's not predictable in the sense that you know what's going to happen next, but it's predictable in the sense that the genre of story that it is, you can see these superhero undertones and where things are going.
So long story short, I like to play a tabletop game called Mutants and Masterminds. It's a superhero tabletop game. It's the best superhero tabletop game actually, and I actually made Angela and Lola. Like I put her in a character sheet, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna play this character, and I got permission from Todd. So one of these days when I'm in a Mutants Mastermind character, I'm just gonna play her and be like, wow, where'd you come up with this character? I'd be like, I did it. I stole it from somebody, but he gave me the okay to do it. I do kind of find it funny that with the whole tied up by a supervillain thing, we're all we're always just like, yeah, one shots, and then a one shot comes out, and we're like, yeah, why isn't this a series?
Yeah, we can never. It's impossible to please the fan base. We'll always find something to complain about.
Dangerous gives us so much, and all we do is bite the hand that it's given
That
us.
feeds
So,
us.
yeah.
So, the odds are low that Dangerous actually listens to this podcast, but if you are, we're really sorry.
We do it out of love, and because we're just terrible fans.
Yep. There's a reason the first episode of this podcast has the title it does.
And now we're on to A Blessing or a Curse, a series written by A.J. Strange. We're going to talk about the first two episodes, and then we'll get into the interview that we kind of had. I asked him a bunch of questions because he was busy today, and so he sent me his answers, and we're going to have Boggle read his answers out. But first, we will take time to talk about his episodes. So, Blessing or a Curse, I actually did not listen to the first one until the second one came out. Sometimes I miss things, other times I'm like, oh, I'll watch that later, and then months happen, and I'm like, what the heck? There's a sequel?
That's why I make sure to watch them when they drop, because I'm notorious for doing that. I'll do it later, and then later never comes. It's like, nah, I better do it right now.
Yeah, like, I can guarantee you I'm not going to listen to the Rune Mistress episode until episode 3 comes out. Because I'm like, what the fuck? There's 3 episodes? But,
yeah, pretty much.
So yeah, I checked this out, and I'm a big superhero fan. Like, I fucking love these things. They're like, superheroes are one of my big obsessions. It's superheroes, wrestling, and Back to the Future. Those are the things they care about most when it comes to fictional media. And as much as I like the regular Silver Age, like people like dressed up in fancy costumes, running around, like stopping like gimmicky supervillains, I do like it when superheroes I do kind of like it when superhero media like kind of takes away all the glitz and glamour and focuses on like the more real aspects of it, like kind of like showing like what would life really be like if like superheroes were here. Things like Watchmen and Heroes and Unbreakable, which Unbreakable was like, as we'll get into it later, Unbreakable is like a really big influence on the series. Have you ever seen Unbreakable, Boggle?
I have not. You guys, I am an uncultured swine. There's a lot of movies and shows, new and old, good and bad, that I've never seen. And to any of the Discord people who have talked to me about movies, you know. So all of you have permission to make fun of the fact that I don't watch movies. So it's kind of good that I'm partnered with somebody named Moviebuff, because he can basically counterbalance my hopelessly inept mind when it comes to movies, because he is, as the name might entail, a movie buff.
Yeah. And to be fair, I asked that knowing that you didn't, so I can tell you about Unbreakable. So Unbreakable is, and for those that don't know, Unbreakable is a movie written and directed by M. Night Shyamalan, the man most famous for classics as The Last Airbender and The Happening. Also good movies like The Sixth Sense and Unbreakable, and Signs too. Signs is pretty good. And Split. Okay.
All of his stuff.
Yeah. Quick rant. Okay, M. Night Shyamalan has made some crap movies, but he is capable of making good ones, especially in the beginning. Okay, I'm gonna stop here because this is just gonna turn into the M. Night Shyamalan rant podcast in a little bit. But
Yeah, this is movie buff we're talking about here. He'll start and never stop.
yeah.
Dangerous? Who's that?
Yeah, he has made some really good movies. Like it's funny, like for how bad his Last Airbender had. It's like he had to balance out how good Unbreakable was with Last Airbender. He's like, well, I made one of the best movies ever. Let me make like.
It's not gonna make the worst.
Yeah, I can't really get into not get into spoilers because this is a trilogy of movies now. So like, I'll try to be as vague as possible with these though. So, Unbreakable is a movie about a man named David Dunn who survives a train wreck. He's the only person to survive the train wreck, and he's like, "What the hell happened to me?" Um, so he is confronted by Samuel Jackson, who is this man named Elijah, and he has the ability to break his bones at the slightest movement. Okay, that's not a superpower, but he's basically the guy from SpongeBob who has glass bones and paper skin. And so because of this infliction he had, he became obsessed with comics, and he feels like there has to be like the opposite version of him, because if he's like so weak, there has to be someone who's like so strong. And so he believes that David is the first real superhero. And so the movie is about David kind of coming to grips with like actually being like a superhero, and he's just kind of like, he's looking back in his life and he's realized he's never been hurt, he's never been sick, and he is weak against water, seemingly like he can't swim, and water basically makes him like incredibly weak. And so the movie's about David like kind of like just like coming to grips with realizing that he's actually a superhero. And this isn't. I feel like this isn't really a spoiler anymore, even though this is like the coolest movie twist ever. Um, these do have sequels. There's a movie called Split, a really good one with James McAvoy, where he plays a man who has a DID, and he has, oh my god, I feel like such a terrible movie buff. I can't. He has over 21 personalities. I can't remember the exact number, but he has 21 distinct personalities. One of which is called the Beast, which gives him like the powers of like animals and stuff like that. Like he can climb walls, he can run super fast, he has super hard skin. And that movie ends with the reveal that it takes place in the Unbreakable universe. And so then they made Glass. I kind of just want to put Steven's just going to talk about movies for 5 minutes under this.
Do it.
And then of course Glass came out, and it's the major crossover between the three. So yeah, getting back on track.
If you guys do listen to Drunk and Dangerous, you know that she is prone to absolutely getting off track every 2 minutes with random rants that have nothing to do with anything and just go on for 10 minutes in a row. I think we're inadvertently copying that. This is supposed to be about superheroes. For the most part, we've kept there, but yeah, we keep getting off track. This is like, what, quote-unquote rant number 3? So...
And so yeah, it's not exactly the first one, but to me, Unbreakable is the best version of like a realistic superhero story. And getting into the episode now, the first episode is it does an interesting thing where the listener is actually the hero, and the person that Dangerous is playing is a therapist named Anita, and basically Anita is trying to help a woman.
Well, I don't necessarily know if it's set up to be FXF, but yeah, like essentially what Steven said is, yeah, the two characters in the first episode are both women, because you are the hero that is going to therapy for what happened to you, and Dangerous plays that therapist. And the reason we know for a fact that the hero is female is because it's kind of a trivia thing. What AJ told me was that originally, actually, Dangerous is supposed to be the hero character, but for whatever reason they switched and decided Dangerous to be the therapist instead, which is why the first episode runs like a therapy session. But then the second episode, because that hero is no longer in the session, it's about their daily life, that's when we finally get to hear the voice of the hero. And obviously, Dangerous is a woman, so the hero is a woman by default, but yeah.
I'm gonna be honest, like that does kind of suck that like that was like taken. Like it was really cool that like the listener was the hero, and then like just everyone else was like, assumably like everybody else was gonna be like a Dangerous character. But as we'll talk about in episode 2, that doesn't really take away from like this how effective the first episode was to me. like I said, I didn't listen to this until like I had this idea to like do like a superhero themed episode. But yeah, like I really liked it. I've hammered this in enough. Like as a fan of the movie Unbreakable, it's really cool for me to listen to like people going through trauma and they're like, yeah, I broke a door without even realizing it, and just kind of like the build up because if you're familiar with this type of story, you know that like eventually the listener is going to mention like, yeah, I have super strength and I'm super fast now. And so just kind of the build up with that and Dangerous's reactions as a therapist like made this like a really effective episode to me.
I think for me what I liked about it was the therapy angle because it was so unexpected. Because even though that was like not a last minute decision per se, but the fact that like I just said, AJ told me himself that actually was not part of his original idea either. It's such a creative angle to take that I never really considered it, so that was half of the reason. And also to me, especially even if you're not a fan of superheroes, because again that audio does run like a therapy session, you could listen to it as a comfort audio if you don't really like superheroes. And also for me, it's like what we mentioned earlier, that even though the series will, of course, be a superhero series, it's going to take a more realistic and serious look at it. Because if you think about it, basically any superhero ever probably needs a crap ton of therapy, but seldom do they get it, if that's even brought up as a topic. So to have this series start off with a therapy session, that's a big key to listeners. It's like this is not necessarily going to be depressing, but it's going to be serious and it'll analyze parts of superhero life that usually you don't see. Like you don't see Batman in a therapy office. You don't see Superman reading self-help articles, or because sometimes maybe they will address characters like dealing with PTSD and trauma, but usually not to the extent of like, oh, now they have regular therapy visits and their doctor knows them type deal, which I thought was kind of a cool angle, is that we're getting a more down-to-earth look at the superhero genre through this story.
I took a moment to think whether it would have been a good idea if Batman got therapy or not. Because Bruce Wayne could have had a normal, happy life, but also Gotham would have been an even more terrible. It would have been an even more terrible state than it usually is. But that's a topic for another time, whether Batman is a good thing or not. And the spoiler to that discussion, Batman is a good thing. Don't ever.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Don't let anybody ever tell you that it's Batman's fault for the Joker and stuff like that. They're terrible people you should not associate with. But that does lead us to episode 2, where it is the perspective does change from just Dangerous being a therapy character to Dangerous also being the hero herself. And hey, this is a cool audio where you get to hear Dangerous play like 4 characters. Yeah, with this one you actually get like a little bit more superhero stuff with this, because you do have a scene where like she saves someone and has to use her strength. And the therapist character is also in this too, like she calls her, and so it was nice to hear her again. With the assistance of her name being Anita, I'm just like, so I'm just so familiar with superhero tropes that I'm just like, okay, is Anita the villain? That's just all I was thinking the whole time. Like, even in the first episode, I was expecting when she's like, call me Anita, and you hear the door close, I just wanted Anita to pick up the phone, and she's just like, I got another one.
I will say what's funny, yes, when part 2 dropped, one of the YouTube comments is essentially that. Someone said, who wants to place bets that Anita's a villain, or will be? And someone else pointed out, like Steven said, there is kind of a trope for that, especially like whether it's the sweet character who's actually evil or a friend turned foe. I understand where people are coming from with worrying that Anita might become a villain, but it's funny because AJ and I spoke a little bit last night, and he was like, yeah, I don't know how people are already coming to that conclusion when she's only been a character for like 1 episode and a tiny bit in the second one. I was like, listen, we're all paranoid. Half of Dangerous' characters are Yandere's. Like, you can't trust any of them. Because even I was like, this character's being nice. They're probably a villain. Be careful.
Shit, there's a Supergirl comic where her coach is the main villain.
Oh, shocker.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
But,
Yeah, we could be overanalyzing, but time will tell whether or not Anita is good or bad, or if she'll somehow go down a sliding scale, or heck, maybe she'll just remain like a static character in the background, and then we're just go over analyzing.
That would be funny. It's like, this is her last appearance. She's just like, yeah, I don't need therapy anymore.
She disappears in the story and we're like, well, dang, I guess she wasn't the villain after all. Or like maybe plot twist, she'll like show back up in episode 10 and be like, you forgot about me, didn't you? Well, now I'm back. And then that's her dramatic reveal.
Maybe she'll just pull a Debbie and she comes back and then they have a love scene.
Yep.
And then I'll be upset because I'm like, where did that come from? But that's a topic for another time.
I'm actually just going to say just a tiny bit on that. I will say it was absolutely out of left field, but that was one where I was torn because I was like, on the one hand, it was actually quite sweet despite being very out of left field, but on the other, again, this is the perfect example. I don't trust nobody. I'm like, she's being too nice. I don't think she means it. Which, I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone is genre savvy enough to know not to trust Debbie right now. But it's so funny. It's that same vibe now. We all have trust issues. We're like, this character's being nice. They're probably evil. Yeah, speculations aside, episode 2 was good. Because, again, this is what I mean when I say it's predictable. Not in the sense that it's, like, bad or poorly written, but that, it follows a very formulaic pattern. Like, Steven said, this is the episode where our hero first starts discovering some of her powers, because again, she saves someone from a car crash, and the person she saves even calls the hero out on it later and says, no, I saw you rip the door clean off its hinges. That was no accident. So we're definitely seeing the setup to the discovery of the powers, and it's getting a little bit more traditionally superhero, but at the same time it still manages to keep that unique spin of realism. Because I will say, one of my favorite parts of the episode is when the hero witnesses the car crash, you can actually hear a heartbeat and what sounds like a flat line in the background, because the hero's husband died in a car crash, so seeing another one acts like a trigger for her, but she still goes over to help this new person. And I was like, man, that realism and the sound effects were just really good in that part. Danger's editing skills are incredible. It was so well done in that moment that I really enjoyed that part.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really nice touch too, that like she lost her husband and kind of discovered her powers through a car crash. And the first person she helps also had a car crash. So it's like, it's a little something brought by fate to possibly help her, like, not only realize her destiny, but to also, like, help her get over, like, the trauma that she suffered. Personally, my favorite part of the episode is when she actually talks with the person that she saved. I think it's, like, a really sweet moment, but it also, makes, I guess we can't call her the listener anymore, makes the hero, like, realize, like, holy shit, like, there is, like, something with me, but I did save someone, and that's what's important at this time. So I'm definitely excited for more. I love superhero stuff. I'm hoping that, like, maybe we'll get a crossover with the other villains of the Dangerousverse.
Oh, I'd be down for crossovers. I love crossovers as much as I love meta humor. Let's do it. Call every superhero writer. Come on, submit your scripts. We're going to make this a giant Avengers or Justice League. It's going to be the Danger version of every hero, each getting an individual video, and then they all cross over, and that'd be cool. Anyways, I'm digressing again.
All right. And now, like I said in the first episode, I really want to actually just, like, sit down and, like, talk with authors and stuff. And I really want to, like, sit down and, like, talk with Arthur. I can't say the word author.
You could say writer.
Yeah. I really want to talk with the writers of various Dangerous series and, like, just kind of, like, get in their head and, like, see, like, what, like, made them, like, sit down and, like, type out the story, and kind of, like, where do they see it going, and if there's anything they can add that, like, we won't necessarily see inside, like, an episode that Dangerous did. So I will ask the question, and Boggle will be playing the part of AJ Strange.
I'm voice acting y'all. No, I'm just kidding.
Alright, basically, Boggle's just gonna read AJ's answers to the questions I sent him.
Yeah, that's all.
Alright, so question 1. What made you want to write a blessing or a curse, and what were your inspirations?
Since AJ is not here, I have to answer for him. I'm not going to sound anything like him, but let's go. Blessing or a curse has been a story I've had in my head for a while. A lot of Unbreakable inspired me. I love that story so much. It was my first time seeing a hero story so grounded and interesting. That's horrible.
Anything about the lore or the story you can tell us? Are superheroes common? Is the main character the only special one, or are there more like her?
Episode 4, if Dangerous blesses me with doing more episodes, will touch on this. It's like a lot of stuff has been going on, but it's not out in the open. Episode 4 will be the unveiling of this to the main character. It's almost like with Batman, when bad guys first start telling cops that a giant bat kicked their ass. Nobody believes them at first. Especially in today's time, people have to see it to believe it.
Who are some of your favorite superheroes and why?
Superman and Batman will always be my top favorites. Superman inspires us to be our best self and to have hope. He's a very overpowered character, but the stories dealing with issues where punching won't fix it, that's where his character truly shines. Like when he talked a woman out of jumping off a building to commit suicide. I love Batman because he shows how revenge and trauma can consume you, and how the more good he does, the worse his villains get. His pain was so great he had to dress as a bat to deal with it, but his drive for justice is amazing. The problem with Batman now is that his villains are way more popular than him. And then AJ wanted to add this, even though this wasn't a question. I've worked with Dangerous before, but this was the first time I ever did my own script. One of the first projects I got to have input on was the 1950s serial killer. I came up with the idea, and Dangerous loved it so much that she did a script for it. Oh, and fans will notice a perspective change happens from the first episode of the superhero series, and to the second one. The listener is no longer in the front row seat. The listener is no longer the hero. This was a creative change that I asked Dangerous to make because I wanted the main character to have a voice and emotions. Plus, when dealing with male bad guys, who would talk if the listener was the hero? But I understand some fans might be disappointed in the change of the story, and I'm sorry. So that was my imitation AJ voice. That was actually terrible because his voice is not that low, but I just wanted to totally butcher voice acting. So, yeah, there you go, guys. I'm ghosting for AJ right now. I'm ghost speaking for AJ. There's a reason I'm not Dangerous ASMR, you guys.
I think when we have a woman writer, I need to do their voice.
Yes. I think my only motivation to write a script is to then not show up in my own podcast episode and have you read my answers.
Thank you for taking part in the review, AJ, and thank you for the series. I'm enjoying this so far, and I'm excited for episode 3. All right, well, that concludes today's episode. We ranted a lot, and we were talking about the possibility of us overanalyzing a very simple one shot that explained everything in the first episode. And yeah, we got into the superhero lore of Dangerous. I'm so hoping for more superhero stuff in the future. I have joked about me wanting to make a Black Canary or Poison Ivy script for Dangerous. And Dangerous has mentioned before she would like to do Poison Ivy. I think Poison Ivy would be a great character for her to do.
I would absolutely love to see that because I agree 1,000%.
We have no clues of what's coming out during this week or the rest of the month, but I feel like we're getting a Jekyll and Hyde this week, just because this is usually around the time they come out. I don't know. This is not me hinting at it. Don't take that as a hint. I don't know. I'm just hoping that we get the new episodes this week.
That would be fitting with the superhero theme, hey, look, the She-Hulk episode dropped.
Yeah, it's damn it, we should have waited a week. But
maybe one day you guys will actually get AJ and or Todd in this, so it's not just us two dinguses voicing for them, but because we hope to get other people's voices, so you don't have to keep hearing us, but we'll see.
And just remember, guys, if you are a Superman-like superhero and you get tied up by Dangerous, you should probably listen to her, because there might be a Not Safe for Work episode coming next. Okay, I'm not saying that one again. Bye, everybody. Have a good day. Fuck! I just broke a hanger.
I don't know why I found this so funny.
So, fucking dog.
See, for Dangerous guys, it's airplanes. For Steven, it's dogs. Also, again, if you want to understand the airplane jokes, you gotta get to Patreon.
Yeah. I'll leave that part in, because that was a good save.
Thank you.